Well, the court of public opinion has spoken. The numbers are in. We have a brand new YouGov poll, and it shows that most Americans do not stand by the justification of Jonathan Ross murdering, shooting 3 times in the head Renee Good. 28% of all U.S. adult citizens believe that the shooting was justified. The rest are either not sure or it's not justified in their minds. So a pretty large margin there, 72% believe that he was either not justified or not sure. When you see it broken down by party ID, you can really see the partisan nature of this decision. And of course, this is what we would expect in this highly political climate that we exist in. Democrats, only 4% believe that the shooting was justified, 20% for independents. And there it is, the big shift. 61% of Republicans believe that Jonathan Ross was justified in his shooting of Renee Good. Now, I would say even for the Republicans, like 61%, not a strong majority, but a majority nonetheless, plus 11%. So, these numbers I think are really telling on how the nation feels about this shooting and just where the allegiance lies and whose side who is on. Now, again, as you can see here, independents stand with Democrats. They stand with Democrats fairly strongly here, saying that the shooting was not justified. And the majority of independents say it was not justified. And of course, again, with the Democrats, a huge, huge majority there. 88% believe the shooting was not justified compared to just a mere 15% for Republicans. I wouldn't say these are shockingly surprising results, but it is nice to see kind of an official number on this from YouGov. And, it's a sad, I would say, affair of our politics and the condition that it's in. The partisan nature of almost anything, I would say. I mean, almost any issue, you can assume you would know the results based on who's in majority, who's in minority. And for this case, it's no different.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's not really a surprise. The right has definitely been kind of leaning behind supporting Jonathan Ross, which is super unfortunate, but again, like not a huge shock. Although thankfully there are many that say, look, I don't think it was justified, but they still like to victim blame as well. That is another kind of bizarre thing that we're seeing. But either way, these numbers are very clear. As you mentioned, the majority of Americans are against this. The thing that concerns me, though, is public opinion doesn't matter. It's what can be proven in court and what the jury decides. We want to see a day in court for Jonathan Ross. I think he needs to be held accountable. But the thing that worries me about that court case is you've already had the feds announce that they're kicking Minnesota out of the investigation. They don't want the state working with them, which has strong signs of a cover-up coming. So we're going to be lucky if we see much in court. And I know that it's tough to find somebody who's unbiased these days, but there are people out there. You could even take some of these people who say that they're in that percent that are not sure of whether or not it's justified. That sounds like a great place to sort of start if you want to have like an unbiased take. So yeah, I think that it's definitely possible to have a fair trial, but the question is he going to get one? Or is he going to have, like, within minutes of the murder being, broadcast out on social media, Kristi Noem designated her as a domestic terrorist. Those were her words. Domestic terrorist. She doesn't know who Renee Good is, but doesn't matter. Domestic terrorist. Then Trump went out on Truth Social, said she's a paid agitator. There's no proof of that at all. She's a paid agitator, radical leftist, blah, blah, blah. So they've already made their minds up. That's the problem. At least Tim Walz, the governor, he mentioned, look, I'm saying we need to call for an investigation. Like, we need to have an investigation. Screw these predetermined decisions. Let's find out what's going on. And so, yeah, that's the problem that I have, though, is you've got the people at the top. They've already made up their mind. They've already had their say. And now they're the ones in charge of the investigation. So what do we think is going to happen here? It doesn't look good to me. The best we can do is hope for justice, but at the same time, I think people need to be, aware that, if there's no justice, there will likely be no peace. We saw this with George Floyd, which happened just 6 blocks away from where Renee Good was killed. So, we've sort of seen this play out once already. It could easily play out again. And again, I need to stress the importance of, like, I know it's hard, but we need to stay peaceful in these times, because if we don't, they will enact martial law. So this is, like, definitely part of the Trump playbook. This is part of what they want to do. You could even argue that Project 2025 has kind of set the stage for this to take place. And yeah, I don't know. This is very alarming to me, though. But it is good to see that at least most Americans are defiant. They believe this is not, like, they believe their eyes and ears, and they're not going with this false narrative that's just being pumped out by this administration. So that does give me comfort. But sadly, like, with the Republicans, like, even though I'm not really surprised by their large numbers on this, I do think that it's ultimately sad, because they are supposed to be the party of small government, states' rights, individual freedoms, and they're against tyranny and all these things. But on each of those boxes, we've seen MAGA do a complete 180. And it's very similar to the complete 180 that they've done on Venezuela, the complete 180 that they did on January 6th. So, are we surprised that the bootlickers are licking boots? Not really.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, but like the Second Amendment folks, like this is your moment. This is your moment to stand up to a tyrannical government that's going door to door and entering people's houses looking for people without even presenting warrants. If that's not tyrannical, what is? They're shooting suburban mothers in the face in their neighborhoods. If that's not tyrannical, what is? Uh, I mean, just imagine if Obama was in office or Biden was in office and this happened. I mean, you think they would be standing up for the agent? I think probably not. I think they would probably remember, oh yeah, we are against state tyranny against our citizens. But because it's their regime and their team that's in power, I feel like they think of themselves as like, these are our guys. This is our team. And dude, but that totally goes against your morals and your values that you've been preaching your whole lives, that you've been fighting for politically your whole lives. It doesn't make any sense. This is how you guys got conned by Trump. You got conned by him because he has taken all the things that you claim that you value, and he's turned him 180 against, well, the America itself. Tyrannical government, free speech rights, all of these things, just the Epstein files, like you listed a few things there, Mike, but even the Epstein files as well. Trump campaigned on releasing and getting to the bottom of it and like being transparent. And he has somehow convinced his base that forget the Epstein files. Don't worry about them. Like, we're not going to release them. We're going to redact whatever we do release. And don't even think about the fact that I'm in them. And they've bought it. They've absolutely bought it at this point, which is crazy. I mean, not all of them, of course. A lot of them have actually come out and have distanced themselves from Trump over the Epstein files, namely people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey, to name a few of the prominent ones, and others as well. But it's still crazy that the amount of grip that this man has on people's psychology, it is a big, I would say, case study for mass manipulation and mass psychology that we've never seen before. And it kind of shows you how a regime like Nazi Germany actually came to be, because we are living in those times right now, and it's right in front of our eyes. And all of that, I think, from a historical perspective, when you learn and study the history of the world, especially the Nazi Germany era, it might seem like a big mystery on like, wow, how can people be so evil? How can they all go along with this? How can they do these horrendous things to other human beings? I don't think it's that much of a mystery now anymore, based on what we've been seeing from this regime and this administration. We thought the first term was chaotic with the whole COVID and the protests and George Floyd and all that. Boy, we did not anticipate what was coming next. And we're only a year in. Let's see what the next 3 bring.
You bring up a great point about the Epstein files, because, like, prior to all this stuff going on with Renee Good, I feel like our channel here, we've been covering a lot of stuff about the Epstein files. We've been covering other things, but since Renee Good happened, we've been doing more and more ICE stories, and I feel like there's only more and more to come, just because of this. The nature of the beast is just out in the open. It's very, very blatant, and to have something as massive as the Epstein's files get put on the back burner, that just proves that the strategy from the Trump administration of flooding the zone works. Hey, don't look at this. We're going to distract you with these things. Don't look at this. We're going to distract you with those things. And unfortunately, the distractions are very real distractions. I don't say this to downplay what's going on. This isn't, oh, look over here. We're building a ballroom. That's a distraction. That's something that, okay, who cares about a ballroom? Yeah, it's a waste of a lot of money, but okay, fine. But this is like, no, we're invading other countries. We're toppling regimes. We're stealing oil. Oh, and then we're going to go expand our empire to Greenland and Cuba and get into all these other conflicts. And then if that's not, if that's not bad enough, let's also talk about, shooting women in the face and, kidnapping U.S. citizens from Target and all these other things. It's just like, what are we doing? So it is one distraction after another. There's always something to keep up with this administration. They clearly know what they're doing. They've had a game plan for this kind of thing. Again, Project 2025 is something to not be scoffed at. This is a literal playbook that was written for conservatives and Republicans. It's not made for Trump. To be very, very clear, this was not created for Trump. He is simply the person driving the vehicle. That's it. If he goes down, if he leaves office, JD Vance can get in there and follow the same playbook. The people behind Project 2025 even made a personnel database for people to hire and replace these federal workers with loyalists, because they knew they were going to gut the government, and they knew they were going to remove oversight, and they knew the conflict of interest won't matter. So this has been something that's been in the works for many, many years. It's been kind of marching forward slowly and surely, but we are here now and things are ramping up. And as you mentioned, Emmanuel, it's very easy to see how Nazi Germany formed, because back then people would say, oh, well, they're in the government. They have the legal authority. They're the police, blah, blah, blah. But that's how fascism works. It doesn't just take over and now you're in it. It seeps in slowly. It's voted in. And it's usurped, it's erosions, and it's a lot of, hey, trust me, I would never lie to you. I would never lie to you, but I'm lying to you, So I think that's crazy. And the other thing too that you mentioned earlier about everybody feeling like, oh, because he's on our side, maybe this is why I resonate with it more. Trump literally campaigned on, I will be your retribution. I am your retribution, I believe was the exact quote. So he sees this as revenge. This term is purely about revenge. He's going after political enemies. He said he was going to. He's been trying to lock them up. You had Comey, Letitia James. You've even had, he tried to go after the Biden administration and things over the auto pen and these kinds of things. So, and even the January 6th committee, he tried to void their pardons, claiming they were pardoned with an auto pen. So his list of political enemies does not fall short. He continues to march forward with it anyway. And now we're seeing that list not only applies to just officials that run against him, but also people in the streets who protest against him as well. So this is definitely a very dangerous time here. We need to be careful. We need to love each other and watch out for our neighbors. But the problem is, you've got 61% of half the country, I guess. I mean, that's not even a legit statistic, because even there, the independents, they count towards that half, and they are siding with the Democrats. So I can't even give them that benefit of the doubt. There's a minority that supports this. And because that minority is connected or supportive of the regime that's in power now, that's all they need. They don't need blanket support. They just need a little bit of support, and they'll march through with whatever they want to do.